What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? I am Tom Leuthner. Welcome back into Nuggets Today. We are a day out of the draft when this episode is being recorded, so things may happen in between this when this episode is recorded and when it's aired, obviously. But we're going to start with what's happened so far, and that is the updates that we've gotten about who is Denver has picked up after the draft. And we're going to start off with this first guy right here. This is Ryan Smith. He is a senior guard coming out of Louisville. He fulfills one of Denver's many needs, and that is a three-point shooter. Now, I know that you're going to look at me and you're going to say, well, Denver obviously had great three-point shooting percentages. We had people that could shoot. Well, we didn't off the bench, and that was a big problem. Now, I'm not saying a guy like Watson, his percentage wasn't bad, but you look at Russ, and I like Russ, but he couldn't shoot. No backup big on the roster. I mean, Zeke Naji can shoot, but we never played him. Hunter Tyson may be able to shoot, but the minutes we saw were about 3 or 4 minutes a game, and then he gets pulled. So there was no legitimate shooting off the bench. Strother, who I think is a guy who can do that, didn't really get the opportunity towards the end of the year after his injury, obviously. He got the 1 or 2 games that he played in the playoffs, which I thought he should have gotten way more because they needed the bench scoring. But he can also create shots, which I like. Now, like I said, Ryan Smith, he's point guard, senior, coming out of Louisville. He is a sharpshooter. He took 10 shots per game last year in his senior year, 9 of which were threes. And with those 9 threes per game, he shot at a 38% rate. Now, I've covered this in the past. This past year's NBA percentage, three-point percentage, was at 36% for the league average. This guy is shooting above that. I know it's a college level. He is shooting above that on 9 attempts per game. He averaged 13 points per game. He has a beautiful stroke when it comes to shooting, and he has a quick release, which I think is a great thing. He's a lefty, nice form. I did my research, watched my highlights, did whatever I can to try to get caught up on him. The one thing that drew me away from him a little bit is that he's 6'2". His highlight tape start out with some defense and playmaking, not just shooting, which I think is a good thing because if you can get more things out of him than just shooting, that would be a massive plus. There's another guy that Denver picked up, and that is another guard, and that is Tamar Bates. Now, Tamar Bates was the first person signed out of the 3 guys so far that they've signed. Like I said, there's more that could happen, but these are just the 3 that I've seen so far. From what I'm seeing and hearing, he seems to be a great leveled out scorer. The comparison I've seen throughout the entire community is a lefty Will Barton. Now, if we look at the past and we look at what has happened throughout Denver's history, especially with the Jokic era, Will Barton was a pretty good piece for Denver. Was he amazing? No. But was he a valuable piece when it came to somebody you could plug into the starting 5 or take off the bench? 100%. He was starting at shooting guard for a good amount of years, and I believe that he was involved in the Aaron Gordon trade. So, obviously, getting rid of him helped us win a championship, but at the same time, Barton was a good player. Now, Barton was a good player on a team that wasn't as good yet. Now you have guys like AG, Jamal, CB, MPJ, Jokic, obviously. Now, if you can find a guy who has Will Barton potential, who is 6'5", a 3-level scorer, can create his own shots, who averaged 13, 3, and 1 in college, shot almost 40% from 3 on 4 attempts per game, then that would be a massive W in Denver's books. Now you got to hope that he can actually come out and be the guy that Denver wants him to be. Like I've covered last night, maybe Denver was waiting to get their guys and figured they weren't going to be drafted. Tamar Bates was the first one taken that I saw out of all of them. So maybe he's good enough in Denver's eyes to come in and actually play. Now there's one more guy at this moment that Denver has picked up, and that is Curtis Jones. Now I think out of the 3 people Denver signed, Curtis Jones may be my favorite. This is just from my eye test, watching his highlights, doing a little bit of my research. So he averaged the most points. He averaged 17 points. He averaged 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists. He's a 6'5" guard. Now, this guy is a shooter. He's athletic. Like I said, I was watching his highlights. He's athletic. It seems at least. His highlights start off with him protecting the rim, which I think is phenomenal. If you're able to get a 6'5" guard who can play the 1, play the 2, play defense at the rim, who's blocking shots. I know is him on a guard, but that's who he's going to be guarding in the NBA. So if you're able to come in and do that, then that's amazing in Denver's favor. You look at his percentages. He shot 37% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. Now, like I said, you have a guy like Ryan Smith who was shooting 9 threes per game, shooting the same clip. Now, this guy who's averaging more points is a more athletic scorer and can do it all. His highlights are showing him take threes from what would be the logo in the NBA. I think, like I said, out of all 3 of the guys, he might be my favorite player. If he's able to actually come in, like I said, it's going to be tough because you don't really know if these guys are going to be able to come in and make a difference. But we've seen it before. We've seen guys like Haywood Highsmith, like Duncan Robinson, come in undrafted and make a difference in the NBA. So now, why can't one of these guys, with the lack of bench or lack of depth in Denver on Denver's bench right now, I think there's a possibility one of them can legitimately come in and get rotational minutes in a year or two, maybe even this year if Denver doesn't go out and actually be aggressive, which is the last topic I want to cover here. And this is just how I feel going into this weekend right before free agency officially starts. There's some reports that came out. Ben Tenzer said that they are going to be aggressive in free agency for 2 players. Now, there's multiple ways to look at this. One of these 3 guys is probably going to be the backup point guard because Trey Alexander doesn't want to come back. Because if you want to go back and look, or not go back, if you go on Instagram, look at Nuggets Country, somebody I've been following in a group chat with them, a bunch of other Nuggets fans, DM'd him. He said, "You're going to come back to Denver." And his answer back was, they chose somebody over me. So now Trey Alexander, who is the G League MVP, who was supposed to probably be the backup point guard, is not coming back to Denver, it seems. Now, I understand why you took 3 point guards and you didn't take a center that's undrafted, because you got no backup point guard now except for Jalen Pickett, who, no hate towards Jalen Pickett. I know people in the community like him. I do not think he's good enough to get rotational minutes. Not saying that Trey Alexander is proven either, but this is a guy who's the G League MVP, all first team G League. Jalen Pickett, who's been on the team for 2 years now and gets 2 minutes a game, and in those 2 minutes has proven nothing. I know he had the 1 triple-double, but again, I will always reiterate the one fact. That triple-double means nothing to me because Malachi Flynn had a 50-point game. Now, where's Malachi Flynn at? Not saying he's not a good baller, but is he good enough to get rotational minutes in the NBA? No, because he hasn't proven to be. He had 1 great game, and that's going to happen. There's people that have those games. I don't think that Jalen Pickett's good enough. I think that there's a chance all 3 of these guys are better than Jalen Pickett. Now, there's a couple guys that I still want Denver to target, and I've covered that. If we're going to go out and get 2 guys, I would love for maybe one of those guys to be Luke Kennard. You sign Rain Smith, and you have Luke Kennard mentor Rain Smith, who's a lefty 3-point shooter, on how to shoot at the NBA level. The next guy is somebody who Denver had in the past and is officially not going back to their team, and that is Bol Bol, who's officially not going back to Phoenix and is going to probably sign under the veteran minimum contract, which I think would be great for Denver. I think he fulfills so many needs. The first need being a backup center, because I think that's what Denver's going to target now. Now, I think they're going to go after 1 vet minimum, and they're going to go after 1 mid-level exception player, and I think that the names in that list are probably going to be Bruce Brown. Luke Cornett might come up there. Horford might come up there. I would hope Bol Bol comes up there, and then a shooter like Luke Kennard. Like, there's a lot of talk about Luke Kennard being there. Like I said, Trey Alexander's officially gone, and I think that Denver could be 2 guys away if it's the right 2 guys. You have a team now with Gordon, Jokic, MPJ, Jamal, Christian Brown. I think Strother's good enough to get minutes. I think Watson's good enough to get minutes. I think Holmes is good enough. Now you need a backup ball handler, and you need a backup center who are legit. And again, bring in one of these 3 guys. Denver cannot afford to lose more players on these contracts over the summer league to the season. We saw Jameer Young, who I thought was going to be great, especially learning under Westbrook. They cut him. You look at Jalen Williams, who was a problem for Jokic in the playoffs, who was on our summer league roster, who was not taken by Jokic or not extended by the Nuggets. So they cannot afford to mess this up again in another offseason. I know there's not much that they could do right now when it comes to trades. So if you are going to pick people up, make sure they are the right people and make sure you don't lose the wrong people. I am flustered with how bad this Denver team has been so far with it. Not the team, sorry. The organization has been when it comes to management and contracts and signings and trades. So I am very upset right now, especially here in the Trey Alexander news, because I thought he would be a good backup option for Denver. Now, am I saying it's guaranteed? No, but who knows? At this point, if that's his response to somebody on Instagram who's a fan of the Nuggets, has a Nuggets fan page, then we don't know what his response is going to be to the management. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys, Nuggets Nation. Hopefully there's some more positive news tomorrow when when this episode airs. And that's all I got for you guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you guys want me to cover anybody, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next episode.